So for those of you who are kind of new to agentic coding and Claude Code, there is a very powerful tool built in the Claude Code CLI that I want to kind of share with you. And this is to allow you to basically kick off many different subagents to research a topic or to implement feature changes to help keep the context window short and concise so that can give you better outputs. Now, typically with Claude Code, you have this main chat window thread. So like if I said like, where is all the authentication in this project? And I kick this off, that is going to use this main thread, and it may take a little bit of time to go research all the files in my project and come back with a nice summary. But as it's kind of grabbing files, it's filling up the context window. As you can see down here, I have a 9% of the context window. This will continue to fill up. And as the context window gets larger, the outputs are going to get worse. So like you're going to research all this information, and then if you prompt it to maybe make a change in your code base, it's not going to do as well of a job. And so there's a concept called subagents in Claude Code, or just basically /agents is the command, where instead of having the main thread do all the work and the research and the implementation, you can kick off these subagents to do very finite tasks, such as do a little bit of research and then return back to the main thread what it found. Let's just run a little test. I do want to kind of show you the context window. Return me a list of all the places where we are doing authentication or authorization in this application. I just want a concise list of files. And we're going to let this run all the way through, and we're going to see how large the context window is after this runs. And by the way, if you're interested in some of the things I'm teaching in this video, I do have a full course at agenticjumpstart.com where I walk you through how to use Claude Code, how to use Cursor, how to build out a full stack web application. I have over 73 videos and 11.5 hours of content, and I'm continuously adding more stuff to this course as AI evolves and becomes better. So I think it's a very good value. If you want to go check it out, go to agenticjumpstart.com. And also we have a free Discord. If you want to join the Discord to meet other people who are very enthusiastic about using these tools, join our Discord. You can ask questions there, and we are more than happy to help you out. All right, so now we have a list of all these files, and the context window is still 9%, so it's not that large. So what we could actually do now is I'm going to say, please review all these files and give us one thing that we could fix in terms of security if there's any security issues. Do not actually change code. I just want you to give me a list of things that we could fix. Now, this will probably take a little bit of time because it's using just the main thread in Claude Code, and then finally it's going to get back to us, and we have a context window of 30%. So as of right now, the context window is not too bad, but if you wanted to actually implement fixes for all these, this could take a decent amount of time, right? You'd have to go through one by one sequentially and wait for the LM to basically fix all these. So let me show you what subagents are and how they can actually speed this up and make this a little bit better and keep your context window shorter. So let's type agents, and that's how you get to your agents menu. You can actually start creating new agents here. So let's create a new one. I'm going to say, let's create a personal agent, and then let's just let Claude Code kind of generate this one for us. So I'm going to go over here. And so in this panel, you need to describe what the agent's supposed to do. Help me find files that are related to a particular task or a research objective. And now Claude Code is going to go off and actually implement this agent for me. So the next panel we're going to see is this create new agent panel. You can decide what tools you're going to allow this agent. So for example, if you only want to be able to read your code, you could give it a read-only tools. Now, I don't know if that's going to exclude grep and find and other like bash commands. So you might have to give it execution tools. Honestly, I'm just going to say all tools. Usually the agent's smart enough to not like do something it shouldn't. And now you can choose what model this thing's going to use. So if you want the research agent to be very fast and just kind of give you a quick response, you could say haiku. So we'll just say haiku for that, and you can pick a color. I'll do like, I don't know, cyan. And then you could just go ahead and enter to save that agent. And now you can see down here, we have a file finder agent with a haiku model. Let's create one more agent. I want to kind of show you this. So I'm going to do another personal agent, and we're going to say generate with Claude. Help me implement code. You need to make sure the code is as clean as possible, make it reusable, make sure the code is dry, make sure it's well maintainable. Use your best software engineering skills to make this the best code you've ever written. I'm just going to kind of throw in some random keywords in there and let Claude Code generate an agent for this as well. All right, same deal. We're going to say let it use all tools. And this one I'm going to use Opus. I want this to actually have Opus. So I'm going to go back and select Opus. And then I'm going to say we'll do red. And then this is the prompt. Basically, you are an elite software architect and clean code craftsman with decades of experience building maintainable, scalable systems. You treat code as a craft, blah, blah, blah. So a bunch of like filler words just to make the LM kind of make better outputs. Let's just go ahead and select this one, and I'll show you how to use both of these. Let me actually delete this one real quick. I don't want this agent to accidentally kick in. So we have a file finder agent, which does haiku, and then we have a clean code architect. All right, so let's go back, and we're going to try the same exact prompt that we did earlier. So in another Claude Code terminal, I'm going to go back to that first prompt we did. Please return me a list of all the places where we're doing authentication, and I'm actually going to say, can you please kick off 5 file finder agents to, and then I'll say return me a list of all the places where we're doing authentication. I just want a concise list of files. So let's kick this one off, and you'll see that Claude Code will actually run 5 separate agents concurrently to traverse your code base and try to find this concise list of files that we're interested in. Okay, you can see over here running 4, now 5 file finder agents. It's going to go through various parts of our code base. And remember, these agents are using a completely separate context window. So what they do is not going to affect the main thread here. And so once we get that list back, it should be a lot less. Now, one thing I'll say with these agents is that the more you kick off, it seems like it does a more thorough job at actually finding all the places. Sometimes with just the main thread, if you said, hey, go find all the places I'm doing authentication, it'll actually miss some things. So the more agents you kick off, the more thorough it's going to actually look over your whole code base, because each one has its own context window that it can use and not fill up all the way. Now, in terms of what it found, it looks like in these both scenarios, it found kind of like the same files, which is probably good. So now that I think about it, if you want to do a solid comparison to the last prompt, we should probably make a different agent. We'll call it a research agent. So let's go over here, personal, and then we're going to generate one. Help me research code and find any security vulnerabilities, and then just return me a concise list of things that we could fix. All right, so again, we're going to do like a little research agent real quick. I'll just give it access to all tools. And this one, I'm going to do Opus as well. I want to do a thorough review, and then I'll just say like yellow, and we will just use the default generated. And now we have a security vulnerability scanner, okay? Because if you remember in the first prompt, we said, please review all these files and give us one thing that we could fix in terms of security. And the context window eventually hit 30. So I'm actually going to do something similar, but instead I'm going to say, please kick off 10 security vulnerability scanner agents to review these files and return us a list of concise things that we could potentially fix. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not sure where the sweet spot is. Like, is kicking off 10 subagents a little bit too much, or is it fine? I will say that the more you kick off, typically the faster it's going to give a response to you, because these are all kind of working concurrently. But you can see here, it's basically using 10 different agents to review all the files that it found, and then we should get back a concise list. And notice that it's not modifying the context window of our main thread yet. All right, so this is done, and notice that the context window is only 16%. So that's almost half of what it was in the other approach, and this main thread still is kept lean and concise, which we can then kick off things in the main thread to potentially fix this stuff. Or if we wanted to, we could just kick off a bunch of more sub-agents to implement all of this. So remember that implementation agent that we added? Let's just go to agents over here. It's called a clean code architect. What we could do now is I'm going to say kick off 10 clean code architect agents to try to address and implement all of these security vulnerabilities that you found to make the code base much better. And now we can kick this off, and each of those agents has its own context window so that it's not polluted with all this additional stuff that maybe isn't important. For example, fixing a security vulnerability in like the terminal or the routes for deleting the API key, it probably doesn't need to know about these other files. And so if you can give it as little context as possible and it can still do the job, it's probably going to do a much better job. I'm going to kick this one off, and I will say this is an extremely powerful tool. So if you're using Claude Code CLI, you should probably be diving into agents, because you can just get a lot more work done concurrently and really keep your context window short. So if you want to deep dive into why the context window is so important, go check out agenticjumpstart.com. I have a whole section about the context window, and we will talk about why it's important to have the context window not grow to infinite sizes and the limitations with the context window. The things that you prompt at the beginning and the end of the context window often have the most relevancy, and the stuff in the middle, it usually gets lost. So understanding where you should keep the context window and how it starts performing poorly when it gets around to like 50 or 60%. The link will be in the description below. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed this overview. Have a good day and happy coding.